And we are live. So, welcome to episode 112 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here.
Pleasure.
And we've got, glad to have you as always. And we've got a special guest here tonight. And I was real excited. I had this epiphany. I'm like, wait a minute. I could ask Jay to come on the show, and I sent him. Yeah, and here he is. I've got Jay King, Jay the referee, here in the house. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. Jay is a Hall of Fame professional wrestling referee. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not getting your bona fides correct, feel free to correct me at any time, because I don't want to,
I'm a Hall of Fame in my mind. That's all that matters. So
yes, well, you're a Hall of Fame with us. With us, you're in a Hall of Fame. I'll create a whole hall, and it'll be fine. But you have more than 1,000 professional wrestling matches under your belt. Is that correct?
As of now, it's 1,093.
Holy
okay,
shit.
Well,
Wow.
that's a lot of fucking 3 counts, a lot of disqualifications, a lot of not seeing the heel do something awful.
What are you talking about? I see everything.
Eyes in the back of my head, asshole.
My wife says I am the world's worst referee because I don't see what goes on in the ring. I get knocked out all the time.
You know something? We'll get into that in a minute. Hold
on
a second.
I have to admit, I worked the show with Kevin Sullivan, a match with him. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, I remember Kevin Sullivan.
And he says that what makes me a great referee.
Yes, that is. I think sometimes that's the entire job of the referee, but I think there's a bit more to it. With the really intense matches, the rhythms, between the 2 and the 3 count. And just knowing when to stop and timing it with the guys or girls, shoulder coming off the mat, I can't tell you how many, edges of seats, I've sat on, he kicked out,
Same here, man.
The other. So, I'm sure it's a lot harder than it looks, because it doesn't look easy getting tossed out or put through a table or having something thrown in your eyes, or having the valet beat you up or something like that, or having the wrestler beat you up. I guess you've got to be a good sport about that.
World.
Yeah, So I was on the show last night with Bill, and we were talking about Godzilla of all things, because we're doing a couple of weeks of Godzilla movies. And I was saying that, and we were talking about this a bit just before.
I think he froze up a little bit.
Okay, put a flame on their butt so we can throw them out.
There he is.
Here.
Yes. Okay. Well, this is a thing that. Okay, you guys are. Here we go again.
Here we go, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So this happens. Yes, this is a normal thing that happens like within the first 3 minutes of every live stream for some reason. But I was saying before we went on that for me, Saturday mornings were like Christmas. Every Saturday morning, because you just had, and people that were old enough to know this, just know it. You had the absolute best cartoons on Saturday morning. They gave you a couple of hours to fool around after that. And then you came back in and you sat down and got ready to watch some professional wrestling. And so for me, that goes back to the WWE. And the days of Bruno Sammartino, Ken Patera, Special Delivery Jones, Andre the Giant, who was a rarity. It took me into, a lot of people. I bought comic books growing up, but I also bought a lot of wrestling magazines, The Wrestler. I bought a lot of PWI. And so I was constantly seeing all of this whole other universe out there that, wasn't within the McMahon territory.
Yep.
Who's Abdullah the Butcher? Who is this guy? He looks crazy. Who's the Sheik? Wait, Dusty Rhodes. I've never. Wait, Ric Flair. You know, Roddy Piper was fighting Greg Valentine. Wait, I never saw that before. You know, and so as time went on, I mean, for me, the pro wrestling was more important than the NFL. It was more important than the NBA. It was more important than Major League Baseball. You know, we're Americans, so we're not following soccer at all. So who cares about that? But I mean, that was my go-to sport. That was it.
Same here.
And I stuck with it, and I still, you know, have, you know, just the biggest love in my heart for professional wrestling. I've fallen away from it a little bit over the past few years. I was gone for 10 years, so there was no wrestling where I was. I was overseas. But then I had the good fortune to meet you in Japan one day, and you just said, yeah, I'm like, you do what? Wait a minute, what? You know, and like I was like a fanboy, you know, I turned like, wait, you know, you did this and that. And, we started talking a little bit within the confines of the place that we were in. And let me just start out with this because I've been talking for a while now. How does one get, what's your background? How did this start? Were you a fan of wrestling growing up? Take it from here.
Well, in St. Louis, it wasn't Saturday mornings. It was Saturday nights was wrestling. That there was, I showed you this book, Wrestling at the Chase, that not far from where I live right now is the Chase Park Plaza Hotel. And on top of the hotel was a big ballroom. And every Saturday night they had live wrestling there. And men would come, this was like late 50s, early 60s. They would come in wearing their suits. The women had their furs and the jewels. I mean, it was this awesome, big fancy thing with Dick the Bruiser and guys there wrestling. And Sam Muchnick was the head of the St. Louis organization. He was actually the head of the NWA for years.
Okay.
And St. Louis was known as the wrestling capital of the world, that they brought in, the Von Erichs and Ted DiBiase before he was, the $1 Million Man,
yeah.
Gene Kiniski. I mean, all these guys would come through and watch wrestle in St. Louis. And every Saturday night they had roller derby followed by wrestling. And
I love that.
Awesome.
And I can remember as early as maybe 4 years old, my grandpa would drag the mattress in the living room. We'd lay there. Of course, I'd fall asleep before it was over, but then they repeated wrestling Sunday morning so you could watch it again.
Okay.
So I've got wrestling in my blood. And then jump forward to, I don't know what year. I have to look at my notes here. It was like 2012. Now, my real job is I'm a veterinarian.
Okay.
And I went to a Ring of Honor show to meet Awesome Kong. And
love her.
Yeah, and Jim Cornette was there.
Okay.
And I hear this guy say, Dr. King, what the hell are you doing here? And I turn around and it's this guy that I just did a C-section on his dog like 2 hours earlier. Well, I'm here to watch wrestling. What are you doing here? And he said,
You're gonna blow my cover. Yeah.
He says, I'm the local commissioner for the indie group around here. I'm like, okay. That's neat. So 2 weeks later, he comes in with his dog to get stitches out from the surgery. And we just started talking. And I jokingly said, well, I'm too old to be a wrestler, but if you ever need a referee, I can count to 3. And he said, well, I got somebody that's getting ready to retire. If you're interested, we can train you and you can try it. So like, okay.
Come on, man.
When can we get in the gym and try this out? So
yeah.
So we got down there, did a little walkthrough, introduced me to the guy who trains the wrestlers. His name was Johnny Courageous.
Okay.
And he said, I've never trained somebody to be a referee, but I'll work with you. And after about a month or so, I was having a big part of being a referee is learning to read the ring, to know where to be and not get, in the wrestler's way or get run over. It's sort of like Bujinkan, seeing the space.
Okay.
But since I didn't know how they were moving, it was so hard. And I said, can I start doing some wrestler training so I can understand a little bit better that, American wrestlers always work the left arm. If you look at, they're going to throw somebody, it's the left. Mexican wrestlers do the right. Japanese wrestlers, they just do whatever the hell they want. But it made it a lot easier for me to start reading the ring and seeing how it. And after about 9 months of training, they said, well, let's try you out. And the very first match, you go up there and you have to pat the wrestlers down, and you like pat the boot to make sure there's no hidden weapons there. Why? I came straight on this guy, put my hands down, and he kicked me right in the groin. He just raised his leg right up and kicked me and smiles at, welcome to the ring.
So you got the Rocky 3 treatment or something like that,
So I learned really quick that when you pat somebody down, you put one hand on front of the boot, and you stand to the side just a little bit. So that was like 2012 was my first match.
Wow. So this is a relatively new thing. Within about a decade. I mean, you haven't been at it for wow. That's fantastic.
And then I remember about 2.5 years of that, we did no shows with COVID.
Right.
So we just are getting back in the full gear again. So
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Because I remember during COVID, everything had shut down. And only 2 organizations kept going. One was the UFC, and the other was Vince and the WWE. I mean, I remember, they were performing in front of empty auditoriums. Did they do a WrestleMania?
They did with
no fans.
They did a WrestleMania, but they had fans on the screens, but it's still not the same. You can't hear them cheering. You know what I mean? That's part of what gets you into the matches too.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that you sort of feedback on the crowd. You see, the idea is you want to take the fans to the top level, and it's like this roller coaster ride that I don't know how much you want to know, but all matches should have like these certain parts of it that initially is the introduction where everybody's walking into the ring and you're trying to learn the characters, and then it's where they're sort of the good guy is winning, he's feeling it out, and then all of a sudden the heat comes where the bad guy starts winning. And then there's like the hope spot where the good guy starts to come back again. Right. And then there's another heat where the bad guy comes back in. And then there's the finish. So it's almost like they say it's like a play where you got to have all these different parts. And there may be, one heat, there may be 5 heats, and you just got to, and you get where sometimes you're supposed to end at this spot up here, but you're still over here and the fans are already up to that point. It's like, we're just going to end it now, because if we drop down, there's no way we're going to get them back. So you feed off the crowd. And every year we do this one show where they have live music being played, and you just can't hear the crowd. So it messes up with you. And then also you want the crowds to hear the hits. They don't hear anything, so it's sort of a dead show there, which you have to work a lot harder to get the fans with that.
So a lot of it is just it's intuition and paying attention, not just to what's in the ring, but what's going on with the people. How they're reacting. Okay.
Yeah.
And let me go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say that you get some of the new wrestlers. They want to choreograph the whole 10 minutes or 20 minutes, however to go. We're going to do this and this and this. And if the crowd isn't feeling it, they have a hard time changing. Or if they miss a spot, sometimes they're saying like, oh, now where do we come back in? You get the veterans, they'll say, we're going to end with this and we're going to do this and this, sometime in the match. And so they're more fluent, and when they lock up, a lot of times they'll say, shoot me off the ropes, drop down, drop kick, and they'll call 4 or 5 moves. And, when they're locking up or when they're down or when they're circling, sometimes they'll tell me, kick me in the stomach. So when the next guy circles by me, I said, kick him in the stomach. You know, I have to relay messages back and forth. So
yeah, I've heard a lot of stories like the old school guys. They knew the finish, they knew the beginning, but the rest was just like created on the fly, which is really cool if you think about it.
Well, you would think that would have to come with experience.
Yeah.
You know, you probably wouldn't want to try to control everything or play I can understand why a new guy or a new girl in there would want to, you know, because you're nervous. And so you want to know, okay, 1, 2, 3, you know, it's like taking steps. Okay,
right.
It's procedural. But once you start to get into, you know, a place where you know those things, and then, you know, like you said with training, you're moving in more of a flow state, you know, then you're just confident to, you know, and you have trust, I guess, with the other person that, you know, you're across the ring from, you know, to just be able to do that, you know, bearing certain things in mind.
You usually have one person that is the ring general, that he's the one that's calling the shots in the ring. And it's usually the senior guy who's the heel. Because, I mean, the heel's the one that's doing the most in the ring to make things look. There's Tommy Dreamer, right?
Yeah, one of my favorites.
I love Dreamer, man.
I've loved him since ECW, like towards the end, like 97, 98.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
I worked a match with him right before COVID, and he is a character.
Yeah.
I actually I don't think I ever mentioned this. I went to high school. I graduated high school with Draws.
No shit, really?
Yeah, we graduated high school together. And when he, you know, it didn't work out working with the Denver Broncos, they made a decision. His agent was like, well, you better go find some work. And they're like, well, okay, you know, you puked on the ball. You know, let's get you, you know, something in wrestling. Okay, so he's like, okay, you know, that sounds like fun. Because, and just for the record, I want to say this. He is like, Darren was like he still is. He was like the supreme jock. But at the same time, he was like the nicest person you'd ever want to meet. You know, he still is. But I mean, it could have been one of those situations where he was just the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the most down to earth and kind person. And I keep saying it in past tense. I don't mean to, but you know, in that time frame. And when he was making the transition into ECW, he would get me and a few friends tickets.
Cool.
To see him wrestle. So we would go down to South Philly at the ECW arena.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I've been there twice. I got a chance to, I remember he got it. The one time I went to see him the first time, he had to wrestle New Jack.
Oh.
And that didn't, it was in one, and his job was basically just to take a beating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was basically his job. And he came out to see us after all the matches were over with. And New Jack had broken a guitar over his head. And, you know, he came out afterwards and he goes, I don't remember anything after that. It's like, I literally don't remember the rest of the match. But then, you know, it's just, you know, I guess it's New Jack. So, you know, you're prepared for that sort of thing. And then, you know, he made it all the way to the WWE.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember I was in the local World Gym one time, and there he was. I'm like, yo, what's going on? He's like, hey, man, what's happening? You know, and we're talking. And it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and he was telling me, they're telling me on Monday I have to wrestle the Big Show. And he had never wrestled the Big Show before. And he was, I never forget this. He was on like the lat pull down machine at World Gym. And he's just sitting there and he goes, you know, man, he goes, I'm just trying to get my head around it, you know, because they told me what's going to happen. And, you know, I'm just trying to get he goes, you know, I guess I just got to do it. And I'm like, yeah, man, you know, it'll be good. And I was like, ooh, you know, at the same time, I was like, ooh, you know, that's really scary. But I had forgotten about it. And I remember I was back in my apartment on Monday night and I was flipping through the channels. And just as I hit USA, I see the Big Show has him up in the air for a choke slam. And Darren is like 6'4", 6'5". He was about 280 pounds. And he's got him up with one arm. And all of a sudden, I see my friend that I've known for like 10 or 15 years just get unbelievably slammed. And I'm like, holy shit, I forgot about, like, it all came rushing back from like 5 days previously. And I just happened to catch the end of it. That match is still on YouTube. It only lasted like 90 seconds.
It went that long?
It went that long. Well, just for him to slap him around for about 60 seconds and then hold him up for about 10 or 15 seconds and then boom, and then that was it, man. Oh, the bumps. That leads me to ask this question. As a ref in your training, did you have to learn how to take bumps?
They were teaching me how to do the wrestler bumps.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, we both study Bujinkan, a type of martial arts. And when martial artists take bumps, you sort of throw your butt backwards to try to get as low to the ground as you hit before you hit. Wrestlers throw their butt sort of forward and up because you want everything to look as big as possible. So I was having a little bit of a hard time doing that. And they said, just take the bump how you feel comfortable, because you're a referee, not a wrestler. They don't expect you to look like a wrestler. Plus, the way I fall looks so different. It looks like I'm getting killed out there. So they say, just fall however you want and just make it look good. And that's one thing that has helped is, we work on the timing that when somebody's punching, we can just move just a little bit. So as a martial artist, the punch just barely grazes us. And you get some of these referees, when somebody's punching them, they're moving when the fist is still, 12 inches away from their face. I can wait until a punch or a kick is touching me and then go with it, which makes it look more realistic.
And that's called selling?
Well, selling is that, and when you're down, act like you're hurt in that. So
okay.
So I've had one instance. The guy says, "You want to take a bump tonight?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I'll go do another story after this one, but I said, "Yeah, sure. What you want me to do?" And he said, "How about a super kick to the face?"
Here's Masahiro Chono to deliver it to you too.
Sure. I said, "How are we going to do this?" And it's always like, you be standing here, like, why in the hell would I stand there? That's a stupid.
Yeah.
But it was going to be the face is going to do a super kick to the heel, but the heel grabs me and pulls me in front, so I take a kick. So my theory is, when he kicks me, I'm just going to go with the kick and fall. Well, for some reason, the heel, when he pulled me, he stood behind me and held me there. But I took the full kick to the head. And when I went back, when I went back to the locker room, they said, "Boy, that looked real." I said, "Because it was real."
Can you see the size 15 on the side of my head?
Yeah, but there was a guy named Larry Madisik who he was involved with wrestling here in St. Louis from like the beginning of Wrestling at the Chase. And when it folded, he went and worked for Vince for a little bit. He was like the god in St. Louis of wrestling promoters. And he ran one of the organizations I worked for. And I was still a new guy. And I go on one night and says, "Jay, we got something special for you tonight." I go, "Yeah." So we're gonna have you take a bump. Like, "Oh, he trusts me. I'm gonna take a bump." He says, "Ron Powers is gonna hit you with a steel chair." And I was like, thank you. I'm glad you trust me.
Yeah.
So we go out and
what's
Ron.
The good news?
Yeah. Ron, who has worked for WWE and WCW and wrestled in Japan, everything.
Yeah.
A big guy, knows what he's doing. He's wrestling a Flash Flanagan. And he said, "We're both going to have chairs and we're going to go, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to gut shut, hit him. And then I'm going to come back." He said, I'm going to have to flip the chair over so the flat portion is down. And you come in like you're going to grab the chair and take the shot to the head, coming back this way. Like, okay. So I'm thinking, all these years of sword training where I know how to step out of the way and not get hit with a sword, I got to step into this one. So I'm watching and he goes, 1, 2, 3, gut shot. I step in, comes back, hits me in the head. I go down to sell it and I reach up and I was like, "Why is my hand warm?" And I look and I'm bleeding. And when I went back and looked at the tape, Ron forgot to flip the chair over.
Oh, no.
With the edge on the bottom.
Oh, jeez.
So I went back and I like, do I need stitches? And he said, no, that scabbed nicely. I'm like, okay. and after that, all the boys in the locker room respected me more because I bled with them. So I was
all
the boys.
That's cool.
Initiation by blood. So
there you go. That's
like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
So, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's you never know, the bumps, sometimes they're going to punch you, sometimes they're going to throw you over the rope. Kevin Sullivan, he had this spike gimmick where
I remember that.
He hit two people with spikes and then he was going to throw me over the top rope, and I just said, Kevin, I might have been that. No, I said, Kevin, I don't feel like going over the top rope tonight. He says, how about if I just hit you with the spikes? Perfect. I can sell it.
What kind of choice is that? I can take a spike to the head or wherever I can throw. Now, okay, so I don't know if you're allowed to. I'm not asking for you to give away any trade secrets, but okay. So if you're going over the top rope, how does that? Do you just? I mean, I know we talk about, you and I talk about rolling and that sort of thing, but I mean, in the standard for the pro wrestler. Do you just like tuck and like, because they don't seem to do that when I watch it.
You try to grab the top rope to just at least slow yourself down a little bit. and hopefully maybe hit the apron and roll off a little bit, or have somebody underneath there that's going to catch you,
Yeah, there's that. And then there's some small, like somewhat forgiving pad down there on the concrete, right?
Yeah, it doesn't
sometimes.
Do it. Yeah. Sometimes there's some padding, and sometimes there's concrete. So
yeah. So I mean, those are just.
if Kevin Sullivan's the one throwing you over the top rope, sometimes it doesn't matter if there's a pad or not.
No, because he might like follow you out, and
my
the first show I worked in Japan, that somehow I got the championship match, and when the match was over, before I could get out of the ring, two heels ran in and started beating up the champ babyface. And it was like, I can't just walk out and ignore this because it makes me look really bad. Yeah, that was me taking somebody's finisher that day. But
keep going. I'm just going to put some overlays in from time to time while you're talking. Please go right ahead. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
So these two guys come running in. They start kicking this guy. I go over there, yell, stop. You can't do this. And granted, I didn't know these guys. I didn't know if they spoke English or not. And the one guy gave me this little wink, and I like sort of winked back at him, and he threw me over the top rope. And I went down, and then I sort of crawled up on the apron, and he came over and kicked me in the head.
Oh.
And he said, "Go back to your country," and got the big pop. Now, I told them I was going to work that show for free just to get my foot in the door. Plus, I didn't have a work visa. And right after,
that's right.
After I went back there, the guy comes back and says, "Oh, thank you very much. That went so well. You can work here anytime." And then I was like getting ready to leave. They walked up with this envelope and said, "We have a gift for you," and it was $50. So I was like, hell, that's more than I make in the U.S. So
that's cool. Now you got some beer money at the hub or something like that.
That's really cool. Did you ever have a problem with communication? Being a referee in Japan with the language barrier.
The one guy that I met a guy here in Southern Illinois, came in for a show. He was Japanese, and that's how I got my gigs lined up over there. He was just over here doing some shows. So he's always at the shows. So actually, the first show I worked, he met me at the train station and took me there. And it was this building that's just for wrestling. They have wrestling there like 6 days a week with 6 different feds in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I said, "Oh, who you working?" He said, "Oh, they hired me to be your translator and manager tonight." And they had me I had to like be in this dance routine. This show, they would have like 2 matches, and then they had like a pop singer, couple matches, a geisha girl. It was this whole thing, and they had me in a dance routine and then judging That was an interesting show there too. So they had
that doesn't look so bad. That doesn't look so bad for you.
They had strippers between the matches, but Kita-san, he helped me know what was going on. But I did work one show as a 6-man tag team, and no one spoke any English except like shit show and kick ass and words like that. And I said, I think I know what you guys want me to do, including me taking a bump in that match and then not seeing I had to see some cheating, but not see some cheating. So it was a really complicated match, but we made it through without any problems. The guy in the white shirt on the right hand side, that's Kita-san. That's my translator, my manager there. So
okay. Who is that guy back behind him? That's not Kane, is it?
No.
It looks like Glenn Jacobs. Okay, I was saying it can't be. He'd probably be a foot taller.
Yeah, just somebody. And this show, it was sort of a private show. They had instead of ropes, they had chains.
Mm-hmm.
This was a shoot show with predetermined finish. Those guys would get in there and they would just beat the crap out of each other until they got to where they wanted the ending to be. But the one match I worked, and there was no disqualifications, no countouts. It was just pinfalls and that. But the guy that was supposed to win got knocked out, legitimately knocked out. But for some reason, they wanted him to still win. So the heels rushed in and distracted me until they could wake him up.
Oh, wow.
He could finish the match.
Then you should have just brought some of those girls back out. That would, that could have worked for however long it took, and then while the guys, back up, just roll them back over on the other.
Yeah.
Now my experience watching Japanese wrestlers, my experience is they were incredibly stiff.
Mm.
I mean, they were just. I mean, I remember. I mean, I go back to like Mr. Saito and Mr. Fuji, so that's a different style of wrestling in a different time. And what we saw on Saturday morning wasn't very severe, because I remember the first time I saw blood. It was when Zbyszko hit Bruno with the chair.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was, that just like I was stunned. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. Totally freaked me out. But later on. I'd start to see wrestlers like Masahiro Chono.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I'd get to see guys like Masato Tanaka.
Loved Masato Tanaka.
Oh, man. And the beatings this guy would just take and deliver. And, this is while he was here in America.
Him and Mike Awesome.
I would see him in those fights with Mike Awesome, and they would just beat the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like, Tanaka was so outsized. But it seemed like he just should have, they should have just given the match to him, because he just deserved it for the pounding he would take. And just keep getting up. And now, am I correct in saying like Kazushi Sakuraba, he wrestles over there now?
Yeah.
I see him sometime in the he does those jiu-jitsu tournaments. I have the UFC app, so I forget what they call them, but he has his own, I guess, jiu-jitsu tournaments, but he's also a professional wrestler now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys go back and forth between, like MMA type matches and the jiu-jitsu shows and the pro wrestling shows. They do all types of stuff, so. I don't know if you can. Yeah, I don't know if you can. Whoops, let me get.
Bring it over a little. There you go. Yeah. Oh,
see his back.
Yeah.
That was a match I did 2 weeks ago. It was.
Bring it back a little closer. Bring it back the other way a little bit.
Whoa.
The other way. Oh, geez. Okay.
Wow.
That was.
What is that?
It was a no DQ match, and that was from a kendo stick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
the welts.
Jeez, those are those bamboos.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Singapore cane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And these two guys, they brought in the stop signs and the trash cans and all that. And the kendo sticks generally, I mean, there were strips of bamboo with strings on them. normally you cut the strings so they're not so rigid and they move a little bit. These guys didn't do that. They just beat each other to death. And I'm like, oh, and this was the second match of the night. And I was like, everybody else might as well just go home because no one's gonna match you guys after this.
Wow.
Let me ask: Is that style, that hardcore style of wrestling? Because, like I said, in 2010, I left America. I didn't come back to 2020. You and I met in 19 in Japan. So I had fallen away, and now that I'm back, I haven't really picked up. I'm not sure where things are with wrestling. I think if I were to watch a lot of it, I probably wouldn't even recognize a lot of the modern faces today from the big organizations, whether it's WWE and now they have the AEW, these sorts of things. But is that hardcore style still prevalent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Big time.
I mean,
is it really?
It
yes.
can be. I mean, you get some of the shows where these guys are just, beating themselves to death. And then you get the little gimmick matches too, where it's, stupid little things too. So, but the wrestling is like a circus. It was nothing but acrobats. You get bored, so you got to throw some clowns or elephants or something in there too.
So yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, like I'm wearing a CZW hat, which is combat.
Oh yeah, I remember. Oh geez,
and
they had broken glass and everything like that.
But like Jay said, they also had a little bit of everything. They had the old school type of grappling, and then they'll throw in like a high flying match. Then they'll throw in like, a barbed wire match or something. A little bit of everything because, unless you're going through like a death match tournament or something, what you're getting. It gets a little stale because wrestling card has 6-7 matches on it total, and if that's all you get, you might get a little tired. So it's great when federations have a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah, throw in the women's match or a midget match or a dog collar match, steel cage, just always something a little different.
Hold on a second. We got some comments here. We got Patrick. Okay, this was a little bit ago. I'll see you in 20. Special Delivery Jones. I remember Special Delivery Jones. For whatever reason, I don't think in my entire life, like I said, I'm 53. I don't think I ever saw him win a match. And wrestling was just different back then. When I first started watching wrestling, you knew who was going to win before they even hit the ring. Yeah. So it would be like Special Delivery Jones versus Killer Khan.
Yep.
It would be Special Delivery Jones versus Jesse the Body Ventura. It would be Special Delivery Jones versus Ken Patera. Guys that were just you knew right away. And for some reason, this guy, he never caught on. And I always felt that he probably has I don't even know if he's still with us today. I certainly hope he is. He probably has a lifetime's worth of experience and knowledge. I don't know if he ever opened up a school or anything like that. He probably could have passed on so much information because he had wrestled everyone.
Yeah, he was
jobbers.
Yep.
Because they're just there to lose. And it's like the Brooklyn Brawler.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
they're to make the other guy look good.
I think they let him win one match at one time. So.
When I started watching wrestling, I got involved watching around WrestleMania 6. So Special Delivery Jones, he was already a jobber back then, but after I got older and back when we could rent videotapes, remember those decades ago, I'd start with the early WrestleManias, and I'll always remember they always made a big deal afterwards, like Special Delivery Jones. I think it was WrestleMania 1, fastest match in WrestleMania history. He got pinned by King Kong Bundy in 9 seconds.
That poor bastard. I surely hope they paid him something.
They did the introductions, and King Kong Bundy, he was this huge bastard. You know what I mean?
He was from Atlantic City, about 20 minutes from here.
He always wore that singlet. Bobby Heenan always used to joke and call him Shamu. You know what I mean?
Oh,
but it was the introductions, the bell rang, ding ding. Bundy runs, splashes him in the corner. He falls down. 1, 2, 3. The end. 9 seconds, and 3 of that was the 3 count. So
I'm surprised he didn't ask for a 5. 5.
He may have, but yeah.
But he probably got paid the same amount, whether it was 9 seconds or 9 minutes. So.
Whatever he was paid, it wasn't enough, to just never win a match. And he would always do that thing where he'd start dancing and boogalooing like in the middle of the ring. Like it was like some awful like pre-Hulkamania sort of hulking up sort of thing. But it was like the anti-Hulk. It never worked, And it was awful to watch. Awful. Patrick says a great ref makes a good match great, and he's absolutely correct about that. So let me ask, is your experience typical for a referee, or are there guys that, like, how does somebody become a referee typically? Like, is it that, they're in training to become a wrestler? Is it just something that just, hey, I just do this to pick up some extra, dough or to hang out or something like that? How do you, and maybe even this question, if I could make it a 3-parter, how do you, like, do people want to rise or, that sort of thing? Like, to the big federations, do they want to go work for Vince or?
I think some guys just start off where they're like the ring crew, putting the ring up and turning down, and there's no referee there that night. So here, put this shirt on. And one of the places that trains wrestlers here in town, there's one guy that he will never be a wrestler. He's just not that good. So they're trying to convince him, hey, why don't you be a referee? Then you're still in the business. And then there's people that go to, to school. There's a place not too far from here that Harley Race had set up. It's his organization. He passed away a couple years ago, but they have a training academy there. So some people go there and they want to eventually get into WWE or these organizations. But there's so few people that work those, so it's the odds of getting there is pretty darn. I mean, I feel lucky just getting in where I'm at. But I've worked for a bunch of organizations around here, the Japan, out in Vegas every year. They have the Cauliflower Alley, which is sort of reunions, bring a lot of old wrestlers in. They usually do a 2-night show out there, and I go out there every year and work a show. So it's hard to get in the business because it's still sort of, that kayfabe. Yeah, I mean, right there, I've got Tony Atlas, and then next to him is Baron Von Roski.
Yep.
And then that's
and Cowboy Bob.
Cowboy Bob Orton. Yep.
Now,
the cast.
Now Bob is here from St. Louis. He shows up at shows. I've worked a bunch of matches with him, and Randy grew up here in St. Louis. So.
Okay. Now this is a different generation of wrestler here. These are the non-physique guys.
Tony Ellis. I mean, he was pretty buff there. That was an interesting night because we had that was a big charity fundraiser, and they brought in some big names, and that was the night with Tommy Dreamer. I said, I don't care what matches I get, I want Tommy Dreamers. They said, okay. So they just said, okay, you take evens, you take odds. And this other poor referee, he had just like the local matches. I had those guys, which it was Tony Atlas and Bob Orton against 2 other guys with Von Roski on the outside.
And then,
and then I had a match with the Beast against Val Venus.
Oh, jeez, Val Venus, yeah.
And then my last match was the guy against Tommy Dreamer with a Road Warrior Animal as the enforcer. So I had all these legends that night to work with. So it was right there you go.
That's cool.
And he was from around St. Louis too. His son-in-law wrestles around here now. So
the Road Warriors were the ultimate. Growing up, and I remember, PWI and seeing these guys in the magazine. And I think before we didn't have access to Crockett Promotions for a long time. That happened, when I became like a teenager, like 14. So for like 9 years, it was just Vince, and so I'm watching. It moved from Bruno to Backlund, and then that short stint with the Iron Sheik, was sort of set up for Hogan, to come back, and Hogan's like the physique prototype, this sort of thing. But I was in the magazines, these guys, the Road Warriors, and I'm like, who are these? And then one day, I think this happened at night. It was a Saturday night or something like that. UWF.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Bill Watts, Cowboy Bill Watts.
Yeah.
Bill Watts' promotion. And we started seeing the Road Warriors, and we started seeing Nikita Koloff and, Dusty Rhodes and, all these guys. And it was a whole other universe, because the lighthearted thing that Hogan was doing, or, you're seeing with SD Jones, was completely different. And I guess, in the Northeast, they said it was the difference between wrestling and wrestling.
Yep.
But I like the wrestling. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see these guys getting down and, just, clotheslining the hell out of each other, and, the power slams. And I was just in awe. I sort of stopped. I sort of lost interest in, what Hogan was doing, because it was just the same thing week after week after week. It
was the cartoons you were watching with them.
Yeah, it was. And I remember every month they came to the Philadelphia Spectrum. And that was the big, that they were always promoting their monthly card out there. And, Hogan never lost.
Right.
And it was the same thing, just like you said, it goes back and forth, and Hogan's winning, and then the guy does something, and then, he hulks up, and then, and that tends to be it. It didn't make a difference who it was. It was the same thing over and over and over again. And then eventually, Erica, I don't know if you're a fan, that's when I caught on to Ric Flair, which was just, the Horseman and J.J. Dillon and Ole Anderson, and who just seemed like the scariest bastard alive. I mean, it was just like the meanest uncle like you'd ever want to meet, and then Iron, who was like,
that's Ole in real life.
I've heard that he's just an old, curmudgeonly, mean bastard.
Yeah.
I mean, I would almost be flattered if, like, if he insulted me or something and said, "Get the fuck out of my way." I'm like, holy shit, Ole Anderson just cursed at me, This is like the greatest day of my life.
That's one thing I like about, because, like I said, I grew up, WrestleMania 6, so we had the colorful characters. We had Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, stuff like that. And then as I got older, I started to gravitate towards the bad guys. You know what I mean? Towards the badasses, as you would say. So I would do some research. I would get, the best of the Road Warriors. And when I watched them in WWF, they still had the face paint, the spikes and everything. But you watch their old, like, WCW, NWA stuff, AWA stuff. They're coming out to Black Sabbath's Iron Man.
Yeah.
And these are the guys that you, like, eventually you grow up and the business, however you want to say it. But these guys, you would believe, are really beating the crap out of their opponents. You know what I mean? These are the guys that live that gimmick. You'd want them on your side in a bar fight type thing. And that's what made, I think, the Road Warriors great. The believability in their characters.
Yeah, because, a lot of those guys really did beat each other up. They come out banging bruises. And everyone I've ever talked to or have read in books said the toughest one out there is Ming Haku.
Yes.
I met him a couple years ago, and
horror stories I've heard about that man.
Supposedly he was in a bar and somebody came up and tried to start a fight, and he said, "I will kill you and eat you." And the guy didn't back down, and he bit the guy's nose off.
Yep.
He's
there's another one where he pulled, supposedly, everyone swears by it, pulled out a guy's eye. Why is it after a wrestling show and you're gonna go to a bar, why are you gonna heckle someone like Ming? You know what I mean? It's like, what are you gonna do? Heckle Andre the Giant or something like that? It's just,
Because a lot of times they get in there and they think it's fake. You know, you're not that tough. Okay, I'll show you how tough.
I remember once they had an MTV show, and this was back when I watched MTV, so it must have been a very long time ago. And they had a thing on the WWE, and they had Triple H on there.
Tough Enough.
And no. This was just some sort of documentary that they did. And it was like him in China. China was still with us at the time.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And he said that, you know, like he can't even go out for, at the time, he said he couldn't even go out for a plate of wings. He goes, because no matter where you go, there's always some local tough guy.
Yeah.
You know, that wants to go for a test drive. You know, and he goes, I can't do it. He goes, I can't go out for a burger. I can't go out for a plate of wings. You know, I have to go, you know, from the bar, you know, from the arena to back to the hotel. You know, bring the food up to my room. You know, he goes, because, you know, there's always some drunk, you know, who thinks that, you know, it's a good idea to, you know, he's going to show everybody, you know, what's what. And, you know, next thing you know, and I guess he doesn't want the issue. Hold on a second. We got Echo Chero in the house. He's saying, hello. So what's happening? Thanks for stopping by. They did the nose deal for an episode of Young Rock. Oh, okay.
I just saw that.
Is that showing? I have only streaming channels, so I haven't seen Young Rock. Is it? Do you enjoy it?
It's interesting. I mean, they show The Rock. So, you had 3 stages of him growing up, and his dad is wrestling, and everybody in there. That
Rocky Johnson.
There's a lot of creative license going on, but there's enough truth to it, and there's been a couple of the episodes where The Rock is playing himself in a couple years, and he has his real life mom there, Etta.
Okay.
And I've met her. I know her from the Cauliflower Alley, and she's a super nice woman. So, and I met Rocky Johnson a couple times too. So, it's okay. That's the one thing. It's sort of neat to meet, you know, your heroes growing up and meeting these, and actually, and then when you're working in the ring with them, it's like that's an honor.
It is, and it's a very rare thing because so many people will tell you that meeting your idols is a disappointment.
Sometimes
it's a cautionary tale. Sometimes, people tell you never want to meet your idols because it's a disappointment, or they tend to be either they're not who you built up in your mind.
Yeah,
like for me, but I mean, at this point, like I said, like if I met Ole Anderson, if he just like cursed at me and called, "You fucking asshole, get out of my way," I'd be like, "Holy shit," I would be floating on cloud 9 for like 6 months,
Well, I
bastard just cursed me out.
I worked the show with a beautiful Bobby Eaton. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah,
another one of my dad's favorite, Alabama Jam. Yep.
And I love Bobby to death, but he's sort of shy. He's not a good talker. That's why he always had a manager. Cornette was with him. And the show I worked, I had open heart surgery, and I had only recovered 6 weeks, and this was the first show I was working back. And I think it was Moose, who's in, I think, one of the big feds now. He says, "Well, I'm going to throw you over the top rope." And I pull up my shirt to show him this giant scar I had. I said, "You can hit me. You can chase me around the ring. I'll be your little bitch, but I'm not going over the top rope." And his eyes got real big. He says, "Oh, that's okay. That's okay." And Bobby was his manager. So at some point, Bobby gets up on the ropes and he has to distract me. He said, "Mr. Referee, blah, 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 blah."
Is that what he said? Literally?
Literally, blah, blah. And normally you're talking to him get off the ropes. And I said, blah, 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 blah. "Oh, Bobby, give me something to work with." I'm just not a good talker.
That's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great story, though. That you know what?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's your story. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I heard in real. He was a very tough guy, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I've heard too.
A real,
he's a
corn cob motherfucker. He's hard as a cob. That dude.
Yeah, I mean, he was could be a scientific wrestler, but so he could put you in the submission holds and really make them work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that the difference between like the wrestler submissions and the martial arts submissions is just a little turn of an angle or something, and those guys can tweak it if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean the sleeper hold is just the rear naked choke. I mean, you could go on any MMA platform and see those guys putting that on all the time.
Yeah.
It's just the ref not checking the arm. Which is one of the great things that I love to see. When the sleeper hold gets put on, and the third time.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean. Jeez, I think I have a photo here I wanted to talk to you about wait, hold on. Is it in here? No, geez. Okay.
That was in Japan. That's the night I got thrown over the top rope. That's one of my first matches there.
Okay. I saw this Ricky Steamboat.
Yes, wow.
Yeah, Ricky he was in town. It was right before COVID.
Okay.
Super nice guy. He sat back in the locker room and gave everybody's pointers on their matches. I mean, he watched them all.
Really?
He was telling people how to do things, and then he was a referee for the main event. It was always like, I want the main event. Ricky's got it. Okay.
Oh yeah, nobody's arguing with that. He's just royalty, man. He's just royalty.
And he finished with doing a splash off the top rope to somebody.
Did he really?
Yeah, but it's always like, oh, you're a veterinarian? Can I ask you a question about my girlfriend's cat? Like, sure, Ricky, I'll answer this for you.
At least they don't bring you the cat. They don't bring the cat to the wrestling match or something like that. You get
Actually,
the crate,
I went to a meet and greet with a Honky Tonk Man. I forget who else was there, but at the time, Honky Tonk found out that I was a vet. His daughter was trying to get into vet school. So for like 2 years, he would email, she would email me asking questions. She's gone through vet school. She wanted to do an internship with me. So we started to develop this. And then it was it 2 years ago, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And I'm watching it live on WrestleMania, when they come out and introduce everybody. He walks off stage and I text him like, hey, is Megan there with you? And he texts me right back. So I was like, this is pretty cool.
That's neat.
Action right there. So
good deal.
But he also he was
the Dragon.
He was working a show here, and he emailed me like, my knuckles swollen up. I've been playing too much golf. Can you bring me a shot of cortisone? I was like, okay, I'm treating the wrestlers now. So
you're the doctor on call. Do they have some sort of like physician on call or EMTs standing by, or I mean, how does that happen?
Usually not.
In the unfortunately, if someone is actually injured,
they call a veterinarian, or they.
I was just thinking that was hilarious. Honky is texting the veterinarian to bring some cortisone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've stitched up 3 wrestlers, and I was like, it's always like in the movies, the mafia movies. Somebody gets hurt, they get shot or stabbed. They take him to the veterinarian to get set up, and I've done that.
That's art imitating life.
Yes.
So, hold on. We've got the Horseman here.
Oh, Barry Wyndham.
Now, I remember. Yeah, I remember Barry Wyndham. And one of the great things because, what I saw in NWA, by the time we got to Crockett Promotions, they would have 60-minute matches.
Mm-hmm.
The whole hour would be one match, and one of the greatest matches I ever saw was 60 minutes between Wyndham and Flair.
Yeah.
Flair was always in the 60-minute match. It was either Sting and Flair, or Wyndham and Flair, or somebody else in
Steamboat and Flair.
It's always finding somebody that could keep up with Flair, because he had such great cardiovascular stamina there. So
Man, I just saw him the other day, and I mean, I guess he's preparing for one final match again. But I saw his Instagram, and he's just like on the rowing machine like a maniac.
Yep. That's what a lot of people say. They say, you know what? He's got his stories about, after the matches and stuff like that. They're like, it's hard to find someone who can keep up with him because of his cardiovascular, and it doesn't matter his age. He still does it.
And he almost died 2 years ago, but he's back at it. So.
Yep.
He's back at it. I think I saw he was taking bumps with Jay Lethal.
Yep.
A couple of weeks ago, I saw that. I think about a year ago, I saw him deadlift 400 pounds. His arms are, his biceps are like, enormous. You're like, this man is like 73 years old or something like that. You're like, how the hell is this possible? But he's just, this is what he knows. This is, this is who he is.
Yeah, I mean, and those guys that, he took a lot of bumps out there, and they always say you only have so many bumps in your body. That I worked, I don't know if you know Manny Fernandez. He was
the Raging Bull.
Yep.
I worked a match with him a couple years ago, and he's in his 70s, and he just tore the house up. And I talked to him afterwards, said, how do you keep doing it? I said, if you go back and watch my old matches, I didn't take a lot of bumps. I played it safe. That's why I can keep going like this. Because, it's like Mick Foley. He can barely walk anymore.
Yeah.
But you pay for what you do in the ring. But Flair, I have no idea how.
I think he's like a shark. I think he's like a shark. If he stops swimming, that'll be it.
Yeah.
And that'll be a black day for me.
Yeah.
It really will, because he was such a part of my adolescence.
Yeah.
And then, then there were the days of WCW and the 90s, which for me were just, this amazing time in wrestling, and what they were doing back then, bringing in the NWO, which was just,
or just before that, early 90s, when Flair either got fired or he quit NWA, and he showed up on WWF in like 91 and stuff, and he still had his NWA belt, and they had to blur it out for like legal reasons and stuff like that. But if only Flair could get away with that type of stuff,
Well, I mean, Medusa, when she left WWF, she took the belt and went to WCW and threw it in the trash can.
Yep, I remember that.
And that's the reason that they the Montreal screw job with Bret Hart is like, no way are we going to take the chance of him leaving with the belt. So,
and then there was the franchise, Shane Douglas, taking the NWA belt to ECW, and then throwing it in the trash.
Yeah, I worked with Shane right before COVID too, and he's in a movie. I don't know if you guys ever saw, called Zombies versus Pro Wrestlers, or Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies.
I've got it on Blu-ray.
All right. Now, Eric is a regular on my show, so he knows, the types of movies that I typically cover. But in this case, we may have to make an exception if I can find access to, we could call it Shits and Giggles or something like that, And I was a huge Shane Douglas fan. And I was there in ECW. I was there the day that Rick Rude showed up. To take on the franchise. And just
Well, it's him and Matt Hardy, Rowdy Piper,
Hacksaw Jim Duggan's in it.
Kurt Angle. I
worked Kurt Angles.
I worked the show with Hacksaw right after they did that, and
Mike, it's for free on Tubi.
Okay.
He pulls out this photo of him made up like a zombie. He said, "Yeah, it's really cool. I was fighting the zombies, and I did the Hercules thing and threw them off, and they bit me, and I turned into a zombie. So how was that?" He goes, "Well, it didn't last long because Piper killed me."
He seems like a really nice guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's super nice. Probably one of the nicest guys was Hillbilly Jim.
Oh geez, whatever happened to him? Because like that gimmick went away, and then I never saw him again. Did he go to other places with it?
He does on Sirius Radio. It's like country rebel music station or something. He's a disc jockey. Once a week he does it, or more than once a week does a show, and he does the personal appearances still at wrestling places. So
that's cool.
Okay. Is there anyone that you met that you were kind of like starstruck by? Or was it just, this is really cool? It didn't affect you that way, or anything like that? Because I know, like Ric Flair, he makes the rounds at the cons, and our friend Ryan saw him one time, and for Ryan, I think it was kind of just matter of fact. But I don't know, if I saw Ric Flair, I'd probably start, doing this thing, wooing and doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's how it'd be if I ever met the Undertaker or something like that. Yeah, who I grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to meet, Undertaker, the Rock. I mean, Mick Foley I've met several times, and the first time was like, oh my God, it's him, and then it's like, yeah, he's just, you, especially if you're in the locker room, you start talking to these guys and hearing the stories. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, he was at sitting back talking to him, and he walks by and he keeps hitting me in the chest. I said, what do you do that for? He said, I didn't do anything. Like, quit ribbing me with this. But I was going
to ask you, being in the business, did you ever get ribbed by any of the wrestlers, new guys or old timers?
I mean, they're always trying to do something to you, but with me, next week I'll be 62. So I mean, a lot of times I'm the oldest guy in the locker room. So I mean, they sort of respect me a little bit more.
Gotcha.
One of the cool things is right before COVID, I didn't know if I was ever going to referee again, and I've been wearing these stupid like gym shoes in the ring. One of the guys told me about his guy that makes his stuff down in Mexico. I said, order me a pair of boots. I just want a pair of wrestling boots, the high top ones, but I never wear them again. So I said, I want black and white striped, like the shirt. Well, this guy sends me these black and white zebra stripes. And I thought,
slanted.
What is this? But
what is this?
But like one of the wrestlers like, what size shoes are those? Can I borrow them for it?
No.
And the first time I go in the ring, it's like, where'd you get those shoes? Like, I killed a zebra at the zoo, and now it's like I go in the ring, it's like everybody, we like your shoes, and then I like pull my pants legs up to show them how it is, and I'm getting pops for my boots out there, and somebody's like, you're the most recognized referee in the Midwest because of your boots. So that, hey, whatever works. So.
Well, I mean, it sounds ideal. I mean, you've got the respect of the other wrestlers, and you're having a good time with it. I mean, I not in terms of referees, but I've heard that there were other wrestlers. There could be some hazing. Going on. There were certain wrestlers. I heard the Steiner brothers were famous for hazing people and things like that. Yeah, that sort of thing. I heard the one person, neither of the Steiner brothers or them together would not haze or approach was Ron Simmons.
Oh, you don't want to mess with Ron.
Yeah, because Ron Simmons, and he's just like, they're not going to bother me. Like nobody bothers me. And he's not bothering anybody else either. I've always wanted to meet Ron Simmons. From the days when he was playing football. For Florida. He was just a monster. I heard.
Unfortunately, he was in town one time. I can't remember if I was in Japan or Costa Rica. So I was like, damn it, I missed the damn.
Yeah. Ron Simmons, man. I mean, he's just a beast.
Yep.
I would hear these stories about the time he beat the hell out of Ahmed Johnson and, all these different things. Have you ever, I guess I'm just, kind of asking questions I've always wanted to ask now. Have you ever seen any real, like shoots go on?
Yeah. I mean, that happens in the ring sometimes where somebody does something that the other guy doesn't like. And when you hit somebody too hard, they call it a potato.
Yep.
But the potatoes always has a receipt.
So right.
You back. And I mean, I've had a couple of matches where we've had to like pull guys apart.
Really?
Or somebody gets in there and does something, and somebody will pop them or put them in a a hold and says, do you want to play right now, or do you want to really take this on? And most times those guys are going to back down, and then they get back and they're apologize, and they're sort of knocked down a little bit in the lineup for a while. But it does happen.
I saw, I think I saw it once between Brock Lesnar. Somebody decided, who was it? I think it was Braun Strowman or something like that, decided to really hit. Yeah. And like he just stood up instantly and just cracked him like 3 times or something like that. And then
he yelled at him. He said, "Slow the fuck down." It just happens.
Why the fuck would you want to hit Brock Lesnar?
I think sometimes the adrenaline gets kicked in, and you just don't know what you're doing. I worked a match where it was a younger guy. I mean, he'd been around for a while. He asked if he could call a match, and the other guy's like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And the guy was in the corner, and they said, "Give me a chop." So the guy's like, "Fine." So he's going to go where he chops him in the chest.
Right.
Well, the guy thought he said, "Give me a shot," because he wanted him to throw a punch, and he was going to duck it.
Oh no!
Well, he ducked his face right into the chop, and his nose just blew up and blood. And that guy was so pissed when he got back. He says, "Why'd you do that? I told you to give me a shot." And I said, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm referee. I was standing right there. You said give him a chop, not a shot. So that was your own fault." So I don't.
Good you stepped in.
I don't think you should call the matches anymore. Other guy, take it over right now. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Jeez.
I had to be the enforcer of that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. I'll get in the ring with these, a new guy and a veteran or something, and I'm like standing in between them and start holding apart at the beginning, and the one guy would say, "Hey, Jay's a ninja. He could take both of us. Do you want to try?" I'm like, "Shut up, Ron." You're probably the toughest guy in the locker room. I'm like, go away. Don't make me prove anything here.
Being annoying now, Ron. Stop that. Yes, please don't do that. Here's one photo I have to ask you about. And this is somebody I've never seen, and I'm a little in awe. Sabu.
Oh, he's still one of my favorites.
He's crazy. That's Jeannie. She died just in the last year. Yeah. Sabu, the first time I met him, he walks in and says, "Hey, how you doing? You got any pot?" Like,
that's him.
Goes on. But it was sort of a tournament style show that night where 2 guys wrestle, they'd move on and all that stuff, and it got to be where it was 4 guys in the last match, and we were sort of sitting in the back talking about what we were going to do. Sabu was one of them. And these guys were working everything out. Sabu walks in and says, blah, 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 chair, blah, 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 table, blah, blah, blah. And he walks out. And I was like, is this a no disqualification? Because all the other matches were disqualification. Are you going to tell him it's no DQ? No. So they started So they started with the 3 guys fighting. Sabu runs out, throws a chair in the ring, swinging all over, and he was really swinging hard. And I'm like running for my life. First, there's not that much ring when there's me and 2 guys in the ring, but now there's me, 4 guys in the chair.
Get low,
come back and forth, and then he brought the table in, put the guy on top of the table, and then he did a dive off the table, and they both crushed the table. And I look, and the 2 guys that are finishing it are the other side of the ring, and I had to do a dive roll over Sabu and this other guy to get over there and do the 3 count.
That's like, insane.
Yeah, he always struck me as someone that is just fucking insane.
Yeah. But he's so mellow in like interviews. That's one thing I just thought of. I was going to ask you, Jay. There's like a lot of times you hear these stories, like the wrestlers who always play the villains are like the nicest guys behind the scenes. Like Big Boss Man was an evil dude.
Yeah.
He was like, they said he had like the biggest heart. Was there anyone that you were surprised, like say like, a heel or whatever, what they did on camera, and then just how you were surprised, like, and how shocked, like how down to earth and nice they were behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, they can like turn that on and off so quick that they're out there being, the heel. I don't know if you guys remember Ox Baker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Escape from New York.
With Escape from New York, which was
the big mustache. Yeah.
Was filmed in St. Louis.
Oh, was it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was in town and he was out there just, yelling at people and everything. And then he walks in the back and he's like, and he died like 2 weeks later, which I felt bad because when I shook his hand, he was like ice cold, like, oh, but he still revved himself up to be so mean and then walked off like that.
Wow.
Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, can really sell that, I'm the mean guy, I'm going to kill everybody. But especially if you're not paying him. He wants to be paid for every photo. That's like somebody standing in the background. You got to give me $10. You just took my picture. So
I've heard those stories.
If you mess with him and his money, he really gets mean. But you get him back in the locker room, he's a super nice guy.
I actually ate at his restaurant back when it was still around in Georgia.
Down in Atlanta.
Maybe 15, 20 years ago.
That's where I met him the first time there. So.
Was there anybody on the opposite side of that, or are you not comfortable talking about that, who, kind of turned out to be a jerk?
Marty Jannetty.
Jesus, Marty Jannetty. Okay, I didn't expect you to throw that one out there.
I've heard Marty stories.
Marty was supposed to work a show here in St. Louis, and it was like, oh, I missed my flight. My sister died. It was all these excuses. But then I met him in Vegas, and he was just so high and goofy. I mean, it was just like, I really want to respect you for what you did, but you're making it really hard, man. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess.
Bubble.
Huh?
Sorry, I burst your bubble there. So
no, I wasn't a huge Marty Jannetty fan necessarily. I'm not necessarily even a huge Shawn Michaels fan or anything like that. I remember the days of the Rockers and that sort of thing. Yeah. But that was at the time that I was also sort of moving. I'm focused on the NWA. Like, I wanted to see Crockett Promotions. I wanted to see Sting. I wanted to see the UWF with the Blade Runners. Yeah. I wanted to see, Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev. And these sorts of guys. So when it was
Freebirds.
Michael, Terry Bam Gordy. Talk about a terrifying man. I mean, he just seemed like, he looked like he just came out of some sort of horrible bar fight.
Probably did.
Yeah, which and then would just, sort of walk from the bar fight into the ring, and that sort of thing. So if it was between that and watching the Rockers, I was just like, I'm not watching that anymore. And so I only, UWF and Crockett Promotions. So, and that was where I saw Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
Who I thought was a far greater announcer than anybody that the WWE, the WWF had at the time. And I'm trying to think. Go ahead.
I want to tell you about I sort of collect some little souvenirs here and there that, do you remember Mad Dog Vachon?
Of course, yeah, Butcher Vachon.
Luna's uncle. Yep.
There's Butcher and Mad Dog, and then what was the
Luna?
Yeah. Loved Luna.
Mad Dog Vachon, when he retired, he was in an accident and lost his leg. And had this artificial leg, and there was I think it was In the House WWE show.
Yep, I got that one.
Michaels versus Kevin Nash. Mad Dog's in the front row watching it. Kevin goes out, pulls him out of the audience, rips off his fake leg, goes in the ring.
Yep.
Is this that?
Yeah.
That's the fake leg right there.
That is freaking cool. I remember seeing that match on pay-per-view with my dad because he knew Dick the Bruiser, he knew Mad Dog Vachon, and I knew who Luna was, obviously. And I think it was in Minnesota because they also had like the Crusher there that night.
Yeah.
And my dad he told me about why Mad Dog got in a car accident. He said, yeah, he got a fake leg, and then no shit, within like 20 minutes, Kevin Nash pulls over the guardrail, yanks off his foot, and hits Shawn Michaels with it.
And there was another show that it was Jerry Lawler tries to pull off the leg to hit Crusher with it, and he's trying to pull off the real leg, not the fake leg.
Yeah.
But there's up in Iowa is the Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I was up there, worked the show, and they were doing a silent auction, and somebody says, "Did you see that leg over there?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I went over, and it's his leg that's up for auction. Wow. And I won it, and I like.
No shit.
Did you really?
That's how I had it there.
Okay. Oh, okay. I thought that was because wait a minute, what's he doing with his leg all this time? That you know.
Yeah. So his wife gives me this picture of him and her with he's wearing the leg, and she said that when they would go to the movie theaters, that he would keep eating all of her popcorn, and she would yell at him, and he would take his leg off and fill the top of that leg with the popcorn and eat it. So I came home and said to my wife, "Hey, Kathy Vachon gave me this picture of her and Mad Dog." She goes, "Why did she do that?" I said, "Because I bought his leg." And she's like, "Oh my God, how long does that have to sit in our living room?" I was like, "Forever."
It's like a Christmas story with the lamp.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So then Kevin was in town for a sci-fi movie autograph session thing. I said, "Hey Kevin, can I get your picture taken with this?" He goes, "Is that?" I said, "Yeah, that's the leg." And then Lawler was the same way. I went to a show he was at. So it's like, I got to get Shawn Michaels yet, but that's my ultimate fanboy collectible there. So
you got that over the fireplace instead of the picture, the painting.
I actually have it in my office, and I got like a fake thing of popcorn sitting next to it because Kathy wrote a letter.
You tell the missus this year you don't need a Christmas tree. You've got the leg.
Right.
Just put a little star on the leg, and everything will be fine.
The leg is the star.
Exactly. So Kevin Nash, he was cool.
He was super nice. We talked for about a half an hour, and then took a picture of me with the leg, and he says, "Can I get a picture of just the leg by itself?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, he was nothing like you would think from wrestling. He was more from like Magic Mike or what. I mean, he was just a nice laid back guy.
That's what I hear. I heard he's just like a big laid back kind of a jokester type of thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and unfortunately, with we lost Scott Hall this year.
Yeah.
Not all that long ago, one of the best to ever do it. I mean, even if you didn't like him, he was a man you loved to hate.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, and so that means he's doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
Are we keeping you?
No, I was I had somebody sent me a text. It's always vet questions. No, this isn't vet time. This is ref time.
Maybe it's honky tonk man with another question.
It could be. We'll get him in the stream.
Yeah, my saying is vet by day, ninja by night, rough on the weekends.
There you go.
Very cool.
So, I mean, where do you see things? I mean, are you just going to keep riding this out for as long as you can? I mean, we got on the stream and you were saying, you couldn't wait to get back to Japan. Japan's closed out still right now due to COVID. They still haven't opened up except for these extraordinarily supervised tours.
Yeah.
So you can't just freely roam like we're used to doing in Japan. But I mean, is that the plan? You're just going to let it play out and just keep having fun with it?
I'm going to do it as long as I can. I quit one organization this past year because it just wasn't fun to work for them anymore. They 25-mile rule. You can't work for anybody else within 25 miles. I got.
Oh, really?
I got two. The thing was, they were saying, well, if we're building somebody up to be like a champion here, and they go someplace else and lose, then it makes them look bad for us. And I was like, I'm a damn referee. You make me look bad in the ring because you don't want me to see stuff and you want me to get knocked out. I mean, how can any other promotion make me look so bad? Plus, these other two, I've been working for them since 2012. So I'm thinking that my wife and I are building a house in Costa Rica. So
I saw that. Kudos.
So I want to someday work with wrestlers down there. The guy that's lined me up with the luchadors, he's from Puerto Rico, and he works in Puerto Rico and Mexico. So I'd like to sometimes just go do a show with him. My goal is, if I win Powerball, I want to be able to work every state, try to do every state in 1 year, and then maybe go work a couple shows like in Italy and Germany. I know some guys that wrestle over there could line things up. So it'd be, if I win Powerball, how many different places could I work in 1 year?
That's cool,
have you been to PR, Puerto Rico?
I've never been there, but the guy named Ricky Cruz, he's look him up online. He's a great wrestler. Plus, he says I'm his favorite referee, which makes him that much a better wrestler.
Okay.
But I worked the first show after COVID. I worked him versus Super Crazy.
Oh, he's amazing.
And in honor of them, I that's the first show I got to wear my zebra boots. I wore a striped shirt, but the stripes going the wrong way, and I had a striped mask. So I was going the luchador all out. And Super Crazy is looking at me like, yeah, I think you're the one that's super crazy. But Super Crazy had helped train Ricky. So it was a student against mentor, and it was a good show.
There's a huge appreciation for the lucha style. Juventudes and the La Parcas and the, obviously the Rey Mysterios and these sorts of guys. Yeah, Psychosis and, all these guys that, you saw coming up that are now, the veterans.
Conan. He's my favorite of mine.
Did you like Conan? I wasn't a huge Conan fan. Okay, all right.
The show I'm working in July, the headliners are Blue Demon Jr. and Psycho Clown. And I'm watching a bunch of their matches just because luchador referees have to do things differently. The counts are different, and it's a different world. Super Crazy at one point says, "Don't count so fast. Let the fans enjoy it." Like, okay.
God.
Yeah, like with Super Crazy style, with how fast he is, have you ever like lost concentration, maybe like missed a spot or something because just how fast they've gone, like as a referee?
I mean, the thing is, a lot of times I don't know what's going on in the ring. I mean, I know how it's supposed to finish, and I may know there's a couple spots in there. I mean, the guys I work with, if it's a complicated match, they ask for me to be the referee because they know I can feel them out, and I'll take a bump if they need it, or I'll sometimes tell them to do something different. I did a steel cage match that match was over. The babyface won. They unlocked the door. The heel manager and 3 other heels run in, locked the door with me in there, and start beating him up. I was like, okay, guys, you didn't plan this very well, because if I stand here, I look stupid. If I keep yelling at you, I look stupid. So I went to yell at one guy, and I said, hit me. So he looks at me, turns on and hits me, and knocks me out. So I was like, okay, now I can just lay here. I don't look stupid. and it makes you look more of a heel because you just beat up the referee.
The referee, yeah.
But there's times when you're trying to get out of the way, and you may get bumped a little bit, or it's and then you just keep flowing with it. And when you've done over 1,000 matches, you can sort of figure out how. And plus, if you work with guys that that then you can sort of change things up on the fly. That I worked a match with Michael Elgin. I don't know if you know him. He was a Ring of Honor guy.
Okay.
Like I went over his match with him and this other guy like 15 times. I knew exactly how I was going because I wanted to impress him. They get to the point where now this guy's tapping out. I'm looking like, that's not the finish we're supposed to be, but okay, let's end it here. And I said, did you guys change the finish and not tell me? Oh yeah, we just thought, since I've been working the arm all night, we're going to change it right here. Like, thanks. So it's just, and then you were saying about having the right count. that you're going down for the 3 count, and sometimes the guy that is supposed to win is getting pinned, and you can't do like,
yeah. We're waiting for you. Yeah,
you do the 3 count, and then sometimes they get pissed off at you, like, it doesn't happen that often. Like, you're the one that screwed up. That you were supposed to kick out, and they say I have like the most consistent count, and I'm speaking loud enough too that they can hear what the count is, and if they mess up, it's them now.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got Sean Blue Digital saying, hey, thanks for stopping in, Sean. Appreciate it. So, I mean, it sounds like, you're you're an equal part of, or any referee, good referee is an equal part of, what's happening in there.
They can make the match or screw it up. So,
yeah, good stuff. I've always had this, and maybe I'll do it. I don't know. I've had this idea to write a story for a long time, and I forgot about it. I'm just remembering it now. Where and maybe I could do it under like a COVID situation. Someone's going to steal my idea, and like the 3 people that watch the show. But I had this idea where like sports just sort of collapses, maybe under like a COVID thing. It was going to be under something different, but like all of sports collapses. And then like, or professional wrestling collapses. That was it. Professional wrestling collapses. And then all the referees from professional wrestling move into other sports. So like pro wrestling referees move into like the NFL or like the NBA or like Major League Baseball and like just wreak havoc with like everything because, all the other refs are like snobby assholes. Yeah. And like just give them shit. So finally, the wrestling referees have enough and they just decide to like throw the entire sports world like into chaos. I think that would be a great fucking comedy. That would be fun. I gotta figure out how to write that one of these days. I may be talking to you to get some background or something. Maybe we can collab on that.
We've talked about the wrestlers, the referee battle royal, or a triple threat match with them. So,
oh God.
I worked the show with Earl Hebner, and we're doing a tag team match. And in St. Louis, it used to be Australian tag team matches. You had a referee outside the ring and one inside the ring. Okay. So we're there, and he's like, "You going outside? I'll take this match." Like, okay, so I'm outside, and this was all prearranged. So he took like a bump in the ring where I had to slide in the ring and do the final count. When I did, I looked over at him. I said, "Hey, old man, you should have let me be in here. Then you wouldn't be laying on the ground." and he just starts, laughing like he's still knocked out.
That's cool.
I remember the days of I remember going back so far into as Dick Worley. Dick Worley was one of the big WWF referees back in the day. And what was that guy's name? Little Nate, they called him.
Oh yeah, the guy who's Ric Flair's personal referee.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was Ric Flair, and like they had a match one time where he like imitated all of Flair's moves, like he did that backflip over the belt buckle.
Yeah,
and he did the Ric
Charles Robinson.
Charles Robinson, that was it. Yeah, they called him Little Nate, and that was like one of the greatest things I had ever seen. I mean, it was just. That was classic, man.
Down in world-class wrestling in Texas, there was a referee named Bronco Lubrick, who he was a football player, then a wrestler, and then he became a referee when he couldn't wrestle anymore. And as he got older and fatter, he couldn't get down. That first would be laying flat, then be on knees, and at the end of his career, he was standing up, counting with his foot. 1. I was like, before I get to that point, I will retire.
Yes. That maybe you go get the sun in Costa Rica, man. You don't need to do this anymore. You don't need to do it.
Right. There's some days I'm like getting out of bed, like, oh, I don't know about this, and then when I'm in the ring and there's a 300-pound man running toward me,
you're moving.
I can get up really fast.
Yes, I believe you.
Yep.
I believe you. So, what do you think is how is wrestling looking right now? The state of wrestling, I'm a bit out of touch. I'm not following the WWE. I'm not following AEW. I think some of the names that I still recognize, like Chris Jericho, I think he's still around. maybe Sting.
Yep, they're in AEW.
Flair's, got a couple of things. What is? I mean, is it looking good? Has it plateaued? Is it on the ascension? Is it, sort of in decline?
There's competition now. I mean, it was pretty much WWE was the only show in town, and then
I remember that.
AEW came out, but now Cody Rhodes helped start AEW. Now he's back in WWE.
Mm-hmm. So I was surprised about that. Yeah,
we're shifting around, so it's hard to know where things are going. But there's still some competition out there, and they're trying to make it work. So.
Competition is what the wrestling world needs, because I remember that there was a time when when Vince was it. Like WCW, they had beaten WCW, which I thought was tragic. But Attitude Era was great too. Don't misunderstand me, but I was a WCW fan.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just it got absurdist. But I remember a specific time where it just seemed like all the wrestling styles were the same, because everyone was training, sort of out of one of Vince's, AAA organizations, or something like that. And it seemed like, and this is one of the reasons I sort of stopped watching. Maybe this was around the 2000s. It seemed to go flat. It just seemed to sort of plateau. And I was just like, this is boring. And they had this string of new guys that at the time just didn't click for me, and I had kind of stopped watching it. But I'm glad to see that there are other organizations, because that's the very best thing.
Mm-hmm.
You need wrestlers that are learning from different schools and from different teachers, and that have different styles. These sorts of things, and I hope that continues. I hope pro wrestling, just stays at the top.
And I'm saying, go out there and watch indie shows. There's probably at least 6 organizations within maybe a hour and a half drive of St. Louis. And each show has its own feel, that you get some that are more high flyers. We got some that are more old school. You just got to find your niche, or find the wrestler you like and follow him around.
Yeah, that's like I told you, a week from this Saturday, we got indie wrestling coming to my town, which I'm super excited for. I haven't been to an indie promotion since before COVID. We had one that was maybe 30 minutes away, and I was there every month, and then COVID hit and everything disappeared, and it's now opening up. And sometimes you'll find that one guy, you're watching at an indie show, and then you never know, 2 or 3 months later, hey, he's on TNA or AEW. You never really know.
Yeah.
And it's cool to say, hey, I saw that guy in Genoa in the high school gym, and then 3 weeks later, he's on national TV. You know what I mean?
That's kind of cool. I mean, it's got a different kind of competition now too with MMA. It seems like there's this sort of parallel track sort of running, and it's almost, I feel like it sort of sprouted out of pro wrestling, but I'm glad to see that it's still alive and well, and that there are still young people that want to do this, because that's what it needs. It needs you need new blood, and you need people who who are brought up and say this is what I want to do, and that's really cool. I mean, not to mention, when these guys lose a couple of matches in UFC or whatever, they want to come over.
So the crossover. Yeah, I mean, there was a MMA guy, Dan the Beast Severance.
Yep. Yeah, he was a badass.
Went over to WWE for a while.
Ken Shamrock.
Well, Dan, right as COVID started, he went to Stephen Hayes' school and did a grappling seminar.
Oh, Lord, what that must have been like.
I was there.
Were you really?
15 people, because of COVID, were allowed in there. And he was talking about just regular grappling from an MMA point of view and from the wrestling point of view. And every time he would demonstrate a technique, I'd say, can I feel it? So that's Bujigan way. You got to feel it. And that was just the stories he could tell from MMA and WWE and the crossover. That was amazing.
Wow. He's got his own podcast now with Don Fry. I think it's called Toxic Masculinity. He and Don Fry, they have the Toxic Masculinity podcast, and they'll have people like Shamrock on. And
Fry's an interesting dude too.
Yeah, they had Mick Foley on there recently. You know, they have like, you know, man's man, you know, type of people on there. And yeah, it's just it's interesting stuff. They smoke cigars and just shoot the shit a little bit.
Yeah, I just got an email from Dan 2 weeks ago. He was in Oklahoma going through the Midwest looking for places to teach wrestling, MMA, or just positive seminars out there. Like, wish I could get you someplace, Dan, but we're not ready yet here. So
yeah, jeez, man. What I wouldn't give to get into one of those seminars. Jeez, if you ever, I got to see if I can find him on social media, because you have these guys that are rolling around like that, you know, and they're just sort of rolling around, and they're like, hey, if anybody wants to roll for a couple of days, you know, I'll come down and, you know, I'll do it. And man,
pay me enough money.
Maybe well, you know, if Jack or somebody up in Spring Lake, you know, Jack Hoban or something, you know, wants to open the place up, you know, who knows?
Well, I think Jack is now almost 100% of the time in Hawaii. He moved
in Hawaii. There. Yeah. He turned it over to Tony and Josh.
Yeah.
They're running Spring Lake now. But you know, who knows if they will be up for it. Jack probably. Tony and Josh, I'm not so sure.
I don't know if we could get a Buyu camp and bring him in as the grappling teacher. That would be great. So that would be
once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Once in a lifetime kind of thing. Jeez. Yeah, but a lot of those guys make the transition over into wrestling. Brock Lesnar has been doing it for 20 years now.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's over there now. I mean, I think Cain Velasquez was in there for a little bit even. I don't know if it lasted very long, but now, you know.
And I'm going blank. Ashley, Lesnar, the black guy that was just fought Lesnar.
Bobby Lashley.
Bobby Lashley, yeah.
Bobby Lashley, yeah. Bobby Lashley, he's another one. Yeah.
Even Batista he went to MMA for 2 or 3 fights after he was done with WWE initially, and he to my knowledge, he was undefeated.
Yeah.
Before Hollywood came along, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be, you know, it's interesting if we keep new people in, if it continues to evolve, you know, that would be a great thing because, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like it. And
it's an interesting world I've entered into. So
yeah, it certainly seems so. You're a lucky fellow, man. You're a lucky. I mean, I want to go down to one of the local shows just to hang out and see if they'll let me, you know, refs. Can I ref in like 6 months or, you know, 3 weeks or, you know, anything, you know, that kind of thing.
Well,
you know, just to ask, that would be fucking phenomenal. Holy shit.
You know, Sam Muchnick was, like I said, he was the head of NWA and the wrestling promoter in town. And years ago, my doctor retired. And he said, I'm going to send you over to this new guy. And his name was Richard Muchnick. And just jokingly, I said, any relation to Sam Muchnick? He said, yeah, he was my dad. So,
oh, wow.
So we became close friends. And now he tells me all these stories about Flair and Andre and all these guys coming over to his house for Sunday lunch after they got done filming the wrestling. So I was lucky on that part too.
Imagine those dinners, man. Wow.
Yeah, man, you've tapped a gold mine. You really have. Yeah, it's not something that happens to most people.
I've been lucky, so.
Yeah, good for you, man. Good for you. God bless you. That's fantastic. Very cool.
Yeah.
I think this is as good a place as any to kind of bring things to a close. Unless you had, did you have another question, Eric?
No, I'm good. I'll tell you what, Jay, this has been a blast. You know what I mean? I've pretty much been a fly on the wall for this episode, but this is the most fun I've had. No offense, Mike. This is the most fun I've had on this show in a long time.
We've got it at the top. We have to end it because we don't have.
That's exactly right, Jay. That's exactly right.
If you ever want to talk more, I got lots more stories we can go over stuff. But
yeah, I'd be happy to have you on anytime. I'd be happy to have you on. To please
I'm sure
come back.
I'm thinking my wife probably went ahead and ate dinner without me, so I have to go.
Well, we'll try to give you a little more notice next time. You know, that kind of thing. I apologize about that.
Yeah, I'll just warm it up. I'll be okay. So.
Okay. All right, man.
All right. Well, nice meeting you, Eric, and good.
My pleasure, man.
Again, Werewolf. And
yeah, brother. It's good to see you. And you know, if not in Japan, then hopefully sometime somewhere, you know, we'll have a chance to.
There's the wife right there. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Thanks for loaning him out to us for a little bit.
What do you say about me as a referee?
He can't count. He can't see. He's too old. He yells at kids. And
that's not bad.
The kids are usually right when it comes to him.
Okay. All right. Well, you know.
Yeah,
well, we still like him. We still like him.
I kind of do too, sometimes.
Thanks for loaning him out to us.
I say when I get the fans say ref, you suck, that means I'm doing my job right.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
You keep that up. Okay. My thanks tonight to Jay the ref, to Jay King. Please come back anytime that you want. I'd be happy to have you on and to shoot the shit some more. My thanks to Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here.
Pleasure was mine tonight, man. Big time.
Yeah. We'll be back next week when we take on part 2 of the Godzilla saga with the 2014 Monsterverse intro on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I'm doing the Late Show with Rod as we tackle a Clive Barker original and we look at 1992's Candyman. You're welcome to join for either or. My thanks once again to everybody. We'll see you next week. Oh, and I'll be here on Sunday with Patrick's IFC Midnighters when we take a look at the Nightingale. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks again, Jay. Stick around for a second, all right, man? After the outro, and we'll talk for a second. I want to chat you up. All the best, everybody.
Cheers.